It doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to be fun. The Chiefs get a win, are still atop the NFL at 10-1. And there is some problems we're going to have to discuss, but right now, you're just going to have to deal with it. Welcome back in, folks. It's RGR Football. This is Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. We just got to deal with it. There's no way around it. There's never going to be a blowout. They're never going to take care of business the way that they should. We just have to get used to having a team that under-delivers until it's playoff season and they actually start to want to decimate someone. It's frustrating, I know, but welcome in. We're going to break it all down for you, give you our notes, our takeaways, what we saw that maybe you missed, and maybe some things that we all saw together that we're just not seeing right because it's all right in front of us. It's a whole different day. Dan, how you feeling, buddy?
I'm okay. Everyone knows that this game was not exactly what it should have been. And I understand that you've got former players saying that every win is great. You can lose to any team in the NFL at any given week. This game should never have been close, ever. So the continued talk about how this continuously happens is what the frustrating part is. But before we get into all this stuff, and I know that everyone's here, we're going to do a mini rant at some point, and I'll have a real one at some point later this week. But let's talk with one of the things that I got right. Noah Gray having his best season, a true breakout performance as the tight end too. Honestly, he can be a tight end 1.5 in my opinion for this team because they're playing more 12 personnel than they are 11 personnel, which means he's playing better and more effectively than their 11 personnel, and they want him on the field for the multitude of reasons. Another game where he has 2 touchdowns. That's exactly what you need from your tight end too, with all the different things and problems that they have had scoring in the red zone early on this season. They've been so much better this last month, 2 months of executing and playing and getting those things done. So Noah Gray with a huge last 2 weeks, great performance all around. And I'm happy to be able to say that I was right on that one.
Folks, don't worry. We're going to get to some of your questions. Every super chat gets an answer tonight. Tomorrow nights will be a live Q&A where we'll answer every topic you got. But we're going to go through some of our standouts. And like Dan just did, tell you who made a difference, positive and negative. And I will just say this. While I don't disagree at all for you with Noah Gray, I also want to shout out a guy that I was not sure was ever going to even be able to contribute to this team. I didn't know Clark Hunt had let him back. For another round, Kareem Hunt made the difference today. When stuff wasn't working, it was Kareem that powered through 68 yards on the ground. When you needed to expand the pass offense, because the quick game had run out of script, to tell you the truth, it was Kareem that added another 19 yards. Kareem Hunt had 87 yards from scrimmage today, more than anyone else on the offensive side of the ball. And yet, the winner today was the penalty yardage, because they had 91 yards in penalties. And that should tell you all you need to know about where this offense is at right now.
Yeah, the offense was honestly really good for the majority of this football game. They executed, and every time they had a field goal or a punt, it was because of penalties. It wasn't necessarily because of lack of execution. I thought the offense played very well outside of the last 2 drives that they had to put this game away. That was, again, another penalty-filled thing, and then you have Patrick making his only real mistake of the game, in my opinion, in taking that sack on second down. That was a mistake. You can't do it. I don't care if they have to use a timeout. You can't lose 6 yards there and then get into 3rd and 12 where you haven't been able to hold up for the last a month in 3rd and long situations. You can't take that. But regardless, they won the game, and this offense, I think this was what they needed to get back on track and actually start to utilize more play action. 7 or 8 actual play action passes in this football game. They used a lot of 11, 12 personnel. I think they were running more effectively out of 11 in the second half of this game, which is great. You want to spread teams out and then run the football up the middle, which is their only real thing they can do right now without Isaiah Pacheco. They have to be able to run in between the tackles. So they did a good job of that in the second half, getting Kareem Hunt more involved and finding some big lanes there. I will say that Carson Steele should have had a much bigger gain on one of his carries. He just blinders on. He just missed it completely, and he just missed it, and he should have had that one. But at the end of the day, I think they did a pretty decent job on offense, making up for what the offensive line appeared to not have today.
Okay, I just want to point this out because people are going to ask me later, folks. Yes, for you members, rookie and above, you guys get my personal notes from the game every week, and I'm just going to put it on the screen real quick because I want to point out what Dan just said. And for those of you who think I am a Carson apologist, I literally put it on here too. Carson, 4 yards, but you missed a giant gap to your right that you completely ran away from. And so I am honest. I am an analyst first. While I do like Carson Steele and I love the fullback concept, I am going to tell you the truth. So if you guys think that I'm being too nice to certain players from time to time, believe me, they're in my notes as well. You guys can get that at the rookie level or above in the memberships. Go ahead and grab those if you want to see it. Another guy that I think, before I go off on the negative and let you do your rant, because I'm just going to get out of the way when that starts. I wanted to say something nice about McCole Hardman. I thought he ran his ass off today. I thought especially when he had a chance in between the tackles, he put his head down and got something done.
3 broken tackles. On every time he touched the football today, he broke a tackle. That's what you want. If you're going to get 3 touches, you make it work for you. You got, give a round of applause to McCole Hardman today for breaking more tackles than Carson Steele did in this football game.
Yeah, see, you just had to take it that far. Good Lord. Dan's anti-fullback, folks. It's official.
I'm not anti-fullback. He's a running back.
We'll talk DJ Humphries here tomorrow and coming up this week, folks. Obviously, nothing much to say other than he signed. And they gave him enough bonus that he will be on the field eventually. So watch out for that. Kingsley Suamante was the backup tackle today. So gave him a little bit of a shot across his bow last week and not letting him dress. Hopefully that's changing around. I do think that there is a certain amount of issue there. I didn't feel like Wani played a mediocre game against a set of rushers that shouldn't have been able to get to him, to tell you the truth. So very unsatisfied with the tackle play today for me. How about you?
Yeah. On the very first drive of the game, there was a negative run where Wanya Morris just kind of pushes him and doesn't engage and block. This is a zone play. You need to keep going. I don't care where he is, but he just kind of pushed him forward. I think he was less than mediocre today. I thought he was below average. And it's funny because I tweeted out that Humphries would be the backup until Wanya Morris basically screws up, right? Or gets hurt. And because it's $2.5 million with up to, that's what the up to is. It puts in the when you play. So that's what I have. And I tweeted, I thought he would be the starter. And then Wanya Morris comes out and plays one of his worst football games in the last month and a half and basically cements that when and if Humphries is ready to play, he will be your starter at left tackle. So there is that. And the offensive line, Juwan Taylor, 3 penalties today. He got beat badly multiple times by Jadeveon Clowney at this point in his career. And the stunt, I saw Mitchell Schwartz tweeted it today. They're going to get beat on stunts almost every single time. So in situational plays where you have that, you're going to see a lot of stunts come there. And the reason that happens is because he gets so deep in his drop. He invites the B gap pressure. So no matter what, your guard is going to lose the looper. He can't do it. He can't get there. So you have to understand that. And he's 27 years old. He's not changing his drop back. He's not going to. So that's just something you have to not get into 3rd and 12, Patrick. Can't do that in that situation. So that's the tackle play was pretty abhorrent today, to be very honest with you.
I will tell you, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to save it for after you're done. I do want to shout out, obviously, a couple of other players that made some plays. We mentioned McCole. I thought Juju did a lot of good blocking. I know he didn't have but 2 targets, but he was out there. I thought Watson came up a couple of times, again, in things adjacent to actually catching the ball, but other things that they ask wide receivers to do. Clearly, back-to-back 2 touchdown games for tight ends. This is expanding. I still feel like Travis looked a bit slow, less explosive than last year. I don't think anything's changed there. He's still grinding out yards, 8 for 6 for 62. But it is where 12 is starting to make the difference because he's Travis Kelce in getting closer and closer in spite of. We'll see how that continues to trend. But what's the big thing that you want to rant about today?
There's no excuse to I'm going to actually preface this all by saying Dave Canales and Bryce Young had a phenomenal game plan. Okay. First and foremost, you give them credit. This game plan was exactly how you beat the Chiefs defense. Their second level linebackers don't play well in space. They trigger downhill and they run blitz a lot. So good on them for using a lot of play action, a lot of misdirection, and attacking the middle of the field, intermediate, and then the outside. So they did a good job there. Bryce Young played very well. And then when he threw the ball up to his receivers, they just made plays. Like they just made plays multiple times in this game. That being said, you want to know why? You want to know why it was so easy to game plan for this defense? You can't rush with 4. You can't do it. There is nothing that they can do to affect Bryce Young, who just scampers for multiple runs in this football game up the middle of the defense. When they play man coverage, he was able to see, oh, I have time. I'm going to get up in the pocket. I'm going to go and make something happen. They can't do anything to affect any type of quarterback without blitzing. And then you had Tramari Connor playing big nickel on Adam Thielen. When the world and everyone knows that I said before the season he's a very good big nickel, can play tight ends. He can't play against route runners and quick twitch guys. Here he is on a 4th down guarding Adam Thielen. You want to know who got the football? Adam Thielen for a first down. And then he got beat again and again and again. We didn't see CRW out there once. We didn't see Keith Taylor out there once. None of this needs to happen. It's not that hard. I could have told you coming into the game how to prepare for this defense. And Steve Spagnuolo is doing everything he can. It's not just the Jalen Watson injury. Najee Johnson and everyone keeps saying, well, if they just turn their heads around and look for the football, it's year 6. This doesn't happen. They don't turn their head around. They never will. Can we stop asking DBs who get drafted to please turn their head around? They don't do it, and they never will, ever.
I feel better. I hope you do.
Not yet.
No? Okay. There's more to come, folks. You'll see Dan's rant in the member section this week. Make sure you join at the rookie level or above to go get that. I will tell you the big thing that stood out to me, too, as adjacent to that. You're absolutely correct on everything you just said. And I also say this. In that situation, the jig is up. They know Spags is coming. 6- and 7-man pressures today against a team that usually cannot protect that much is also what exposed that secondary. And when you have to send that many, it's not just one. It's not like a 4-man rush and you're sending a linebacker or you're sending one DB. When you're sending 6 and 7 guys to try to get pressure, you cannot hold up on the back end. It's not sustainable. And every 3rd and 4th down, they knew what was coming, and there just isn't another answer. Yet, they have Tui Pelotu on the inactive list. They have Cam Thomas on the inactive list. Guys that could at least give you fresher legs. Take a couple of snaps to let Chris Jones take a breath. That might help. I don't know. But it all goes in together. And now they have to go back to the drawing board. Yes, Amenahi will be back eventually. Yes, you'll be able to move some things around. It's not the answer to everything. You still have to keep changing it up. I hope what this means is that there's some other solution. There's an interesting question in here that we will get to here shortly. I don't think that's necessarily the answer about making a position change for somebody at corner, but it is something that has to be addressed here, both front and back. It's the two ends of the defense. Zach, thank you for your support, buddy. We really appreciate you. I have noticed that a player will come in for a play and then come right out of there after they have done well. Why do they do that? It's very specific sets of plays for some of the lesser isn't the right word. Some of the lower on the depth chart players. You know, your staples. Hop's going to be in there as much as Hop can be in there, you know, physically, stamina-wise. Kelsey's going to be there every play that he can be in there. Some of the other guys, like Watson, like Hardman, have clusters, sets of plays. They'll come in, they'll run that play, and then they'll come back out. It's just part of the natural rotation. I don't think that's necessarily an evil thing, but I would like to see some of those sets expanded. How about you?
Yeah, it's tough to just always put everybody that you want out there, right? That you only can have 11 guys. So you have some situations for these players or that player. And when you are playing 12 as much as you want to and really can, you can't just get Xavier, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson all the way out there when you also want to maybe get Carson Steele, Samaje Perine. There's so many different things that they want to do, and you always can't get everything you want. And especially if it's like you come in for one play and it's 2nd and 2, or sorry, it's like 2nd and 7, and it goes to 3rd and 1. Well, they have situational plays for 3rd and 1. So maybe that player did well there. They have to come off for a different package. So I think Andy Reid last year did a good job of finally streamlining their offense and putting out the players that they needed to have and that can do the most. We're probably not going to see streamlined process until the playoffs because DeAndre Hopkins is not going to have a full offense underneath his belt probably until then. So you're playing for the bye. You're trying to get wins. And in that bye week, you're probably going to finally just put out Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, and DeAndre Hopkins if in your 11 personnel package. And then you'll say, if we come on 12, this is who we have there. So there's only so much you can do, but I understand the thought process.
And there is some thought back and forth that Hollywood could be back, at least on the practice field in December. I don't think he plays before the playoffs, folks. So don't get your hopes up too high. They don't need him for December. They're playing their C or D game like they did today and still getting W's, just as Knicks fan is pointing out here. They don't need to rush Hollywood back. You want him for January. You want him against the Bills. You want him against the Lions, most likely, in the Super Bowl. So don't get too far ahead of yourselves. As long as they can continue to beat this right here, what Knicks fan says, they're getting everybody's best shot. Congrats to Carolina, but they still got the L, and that's the way that it works. It is hair of your chin as far as Andy Reid is concerned. Sugary, was this a trap game? Ups all up and down the itinerary. Obviously, Cleveland the other night. You had Tennessee beat Houston today. You had Dallas actually win a ball game. I didn't think they were capable of that any longer. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. This was a weird week, and yet the Chiefs eked out a W. I don't know, Dan. Does that carry any weight for you?
I actually think that this week sets up perfectly for them to get a bit of a juice bump. I think they're going to have Charles Omenihu and Isaiah Pacheco back for this game against the Raiders, and that gives you a little bit more oomph. You get your number one running back because for everything that Kareem Hunt has done, they are the most predictable game in the NFL. They run up the middle. They just run up the middle. That's all they do. They can't do anything else. They can't get to the edge. You guys saw Kareem Hunt try and work to the edge. Didn't go very well. He got tired as soon as he got out there. So Pacheco is going to give you a little bit more juice there, and we're hopeful that Charles Omenihu can give something in the pass rush department, just a little bit, even as like a Mike Dana alternative, because he can still play well against the run. You just want to work him in there a little bit. So I think if anything, this game helps on a Friday national stage kind of game like it is. I think it will help them a little bit getting those guys back.
I agree with you. I just want to know how old are Jamal's kids at this point? Can we start drafting them yet? I'd like to just set everything up so we get to the corner again. I'd like to see that. Rob Warden, thank you, buddy. Nice to see you. And great avatar, by the way. I'm confused. Are we playing down to our competition? Why would we do that? Yes, they absolutely are playing down to their competition week after week after week, and they do that for conservation of energy so they can get through another 20-game season and win the Super Bowl. It is a calculated process, in my opinion, one that I hate watching. But so far, I can't argue with the results. 10-1 works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Like you just keep winning, right? At some point, habits get created. That's more of the problem that with that mindset, in my opinion, is that yes, all of that is said and true. Sometimes habits get created, and the Chiefs had to literally rework their entire offense back to the basics after they lost to the Raiders last year. They had to rework the whole thing. They had to take stuff out. They had to simplify it because too many things were becoming a habit with Andy Reid's offense. Some of that same stuff is happening right now. And unfortunately, with the defense, there's no help coming in your secondary. There's none. And even Trent McDuffie today, who had multiple times he was in position and guys just made better catches, he lost the guy behind him and made a penalty in the end zone. Like, everyone right now is having some brain farts on the defensive side, and that's not where you want to be. Luckily for them, it's November. They have time to fix some of it. Some. They won't fix all of it because they still have liabilities out there.
Yeah, and there's no way around that. You're absolutely right. Thanks. Nice to see you, Rob. Chris, is it me or the Chiefs just setting themselves up for a holiday beatdown by the Raiders last year's Christmas, this year Black Friday? Yeah, I mean, they could be. I mean, I don't want to see him fall into a tie with the Buffalo Bills, but it does seem like until somebody kicks him in the face again, like it's easy, in my opinion, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs 2-time defending champion, you say, hey, the Bills are the next best team in this roster. They got us once. Like this league, they're the second best. We can live with that and not change your ways. The Raiders beat you, a team that's in the cellar. That's a wake-up call. Let's hope that they don't need it.
Yeah.
Who will likely be back off an injury list for the playoff push? We just went through them, Snacks. Appreciate you. Zach Wilson was an all-pro against a better Chiefs defense last season. Davis Mills took them to overtime the year before. We have to stop pretending they ever care about these games. It's unhealthy. Outsider, I think that's the healthiest thing that's been said on this show so far, at least out of my mouth. You just have to realize who your guys are and that they don't care at this point. They just want to get W's. How do you think Hopkins' mentoring will help our receiving corps through the rest of the season, Dan?
Yeah, I think they've done a good job right now of working the short to intermediate game with Xavier Worthy. This game, while he didn't have a huge, deep field catch, this is how you build the deep field catch. You get him sideline feel. You get that quick timing with Patrick Mahomes on an out route. You work that stuff. So that way, when you are throwing it downfield, he has more attention to that detail. I think today he did a really good job of just taking what was there, catching what he could. He could have had a bigger day with that ball that Mahomes threw behind him that was impacted by that player coming right at him. But at the end of the day, it's about timing and being in the right spot when Patrick Mahomes expects you to be. That's what DeAndre Hopkins is going to teach you. And also coming back to the football. How many times today was he targeted and he came back to the football? Like you see Chiefs receivers do that a lot. They don't just stop, but they do a pretty good job of that. So I think just the little things, timing, being where you're expected to be, that's how that you're going to see that continue to unfold for these Chiefs receivers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It takes time, especially midseason acquisition when he's trying to spend his time learning as well. It'll get there. I do think it will make an impact. More disappointing, the offensive line or the defense today? For me, probably the defense. You?
The defense, absolutely, because even with all the penalties and the nonsense, they scored 30 points today and had, again, opportunities to do more. So, yeah, the offensive line's holding them back, but this defense today was abhorrent. Again, I'll say it again. It was abhorrent. It was awful.
Yeah, they got to fix it. Mike, I love my guys, but this video title is crazy. You're absolutely right. Looks like my change of title just before we went live didn't get saved. So I'm going to change that now, Micah. So thanks for letting me know, buddy. I appreciate it. That will get updated here shortly. Can you take this one and I'll do that right now?
Of course. Brandon, appreciate you. What's going on? Thank you for the question. These calls seem a little one-sided, guys. I know you don't comment about refs much, but this seemed unfairly called. What do you think? A couple of things weren't penalties. A couple of things were. Again, this comes out in the wash for the most part. Both teams had, I believe, 9 accepted penalties each. One was just far more yardage. And the reason it was far more yardage is because of Chamari Connor's huge penalty in the end zone. Otherwise, this is almost exactly the same in terms of penalties accepted and yardage applied. So, yes, I think it seemed that way. And I know the people out there say that DB turned his head around on the Xavier Worthy play. He absolutely didn't. He looked right in his chest. So you can say that all you want to. He didn't actually do it. And it was a penalty. The same with the Justin Reed penalty. But we got immediate karma on that one because of the false start. So ball don't lie, as they say. At the end of the day, it is what it is.
Immediate karma. I'm stealing that. Faithful, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Why don't the Chiefs have quicker plays if Mahomes is under pressure? Mahomes should be told, seems to hold it too long.
Seems to hold it.
Not open. Yeah. I mean, this is what we've been saying all season. Like, the quick game has to be a staple here. I think it's partially Mahomes being selfish. When he ignores some routes, especially if they're open to look deep, I'm all for getting X the ball. But when he does that, that's Patrick making a conscious decision to ignore open players, to get the damn ball out and move on to the next play. Yes, they want to hold the ball more than they have usually, but they can still make it quicker. They can play a faster tempo if you just hit the quick game. 3-step drop, go, boom. You saw them do that in the first half, and that's how they scored. That's how Noah Gray was involved. Noah went silent in the second half because Pat was always looking to scramble and go deep. That's what he does. And I'll say this. The other thing that bothered me, just as a tie-in here, but so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, I think Patrick's feeling the grind of this season too, because he got caught from behind 3 different times today. He did not look as spry as he normally is despite that 35-yard run. I think there's something nagging at him.
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about that. I think it's really hard to outrun defenders every week when you're going laterally. And a lot of times he is trying to extend before he gets caught, before he's going full speed ahead. He's not always, I think he did a much better job this week of keeping his eyes downfield when he's trying to either step up or get out. And that's, I think, why we saw some of them get hit caught from behind in some of those situations. But at the end of the day, it's going to wear on everybody. And that's, I think, again, why they are trying to play some of these games without putting as much effort as they probably could into it, because they've won back-to-back Super Bowls and played more football than anybody over the last 5 years. So it's hard to justify not putting enough effort into games where an effort like today could lose you a game against the Panthers, but also they found another way to win a football game. It's rewarding bad habits with wins. And that's, again, part of the reason I don't agree with the decision making and some of that and some of the excuses that get made by former players and people out there in this regard.
I agree. And, and not to call out the former players, but they also have a perspective of they've never been on a team like this. Even the 90s Chiefs, who won a ton, it wasn't like, oh, we might lose one game this season. Not unheralded. So they have a perspective as well. So I think you just got to keep that in mind when you guys see some of those comments. Yes, Dan's rant will be glorious. That thing that you saw before was just a tee up. It ain't nothing compared to the real thing. So hold on, folks. DFN Lone Wolf, why did the Chiefs think converting safeties into corners would work? Chamari is trash, and Nazeeh Johnson is trash. I don't think either of those things are true. I'm just going to tell you right now. Nazeeh's coming off of a serious injury. He's been pressed in action probably way before he was ready for it. Chamari is a safety. We've said that from day one. He can play some nickel, but not against guys who know what they're doing. I don't even know. Is Adam Thielen as old as me? Like, he knows every trick in the book. And I think what I see a little bit on the field is I do see Chamari not as quick as he was to start the season. I think the season and the number of reps has worn him down a little bit as well.
He's being put in bad situations. In my opinion, he's being put in situations where he has to do things his body cannot do. And that's on the coaching staff. That's on them. It just is. So he's a great big nickel. He's a great big nickel, and he makes plays. He is a playmaker. That's why he's on the field. But sometimes you're going to go a game where he's not a playmaker, and you have to live with him being what he is from a coverage standpoint. And he's not a true nickelback. He's just not.
But to your point, Wolf, neither of them are trash. They're guys that are being asked to do something that is right now above their capability, and they're doing the best that they can. Injuries hit every team all the time, including this one, and that's just the nature of the game. They're doing the best they can. I put it more on the staff to not adjust. And honestly, the Spags got a little bit predictable today. That team should not have been able to take advantage of your blitz as much as it did. That's just the God's honest truth. And I think Spags would tell you that himself. Pacheco and Hunt together is going to be insane. It absolutely is, because as Dan said, you get a little bit different. I'm ready back for the angry running. Like, Kareem is good, especially in contact when he turns his back and he's like, screw you. I'm just going to rugby push you guys for another 5 yards. I love that shit. But Pacheco is a different kind of angry runner, so I'm ready for some of that as well. Faithful, why can't the secondary turn around in coverage? I mean, we've said this 7 ways from Sunday, but the basis, and unless you want to take it, Dan, and run with it, they're just not coached to. They're not asked to. It's play the ball, play the man, not the ball. You don't have to go get it.
It can't be taught. I'm sorry. At this point in what we've seen, it can't be taught. And if it is, then they are not doing a good job teaching it, and the players are doing an even worse job executing it. So it's on both. They are drafting players that, one, have a typical style at DB. They're big, they're outside guys, they turn and run pretty well, and they are matchup down the sideline players. Now, Nazeeh Johnson, when he's matched up going down the sideline, he makes good positional decisions. He's in good position, but how many times have we seen him get beat? Multiple times, because they're not taught and able to turn. It's almost like they are taught to play in trail exclusively. And that will get you beat multiple times a game to anybody that is willing to take decisions down the field. and give them
And
an
to take the
option.
chance.
So, yeah, exactly. Patrick Mahomes and this team, they don't do that. They don't do it partly because corners and other defenses aren't taught to exclusively play trail technique. They're just not. So I don't believe that it's taught at any level for this team. And if it is, something's got to change because there's no execution. There's no inkling that anyone's looking for the football.
It may be taught, but it's certainly not demanded. And I think that's the thing that has to change. You know, you have guys that are in position, like you said, and now it's just taking that next step. Are we getting predictable on defense, Casey, forever? I certainly believe so. Dan, would you argue with that?
I mean, it's tough to be unpredictable when your defense is so what it is. It's so straightforward with the players that you have to have out there and that you continuously put out there. So I think I would agree with that.
Faithful, thank you for your super chat before. I'm sorry I didn't say that. We very much do appreciate it. I got a little distracted because thanks to Mike's question, this is what I've been waiting for. Once we calm down, I'm just going to put this up, Dan, and see what you had to say for yourself.
Yeah, I was so wrong. I thought they would lose pretty bad. And I was so wrong about that. Honestly, I did not expect Kansas to be able to physically dominate the entirety of that defense. I thought they've been playing much better, and the defensive line looked better. I thought Warren Sapp had done a good job to this point of actually making them play. But Kansas just said, you guys ever heard of this guy named Devin Neal? And they just said, here's 41 touches, and you can't stop him. And yeah, they couldn't do it. So hats off to Kansas. I was really wrong, and Devin Neal is going to look great in red and gold and white next season.
I was literally just going to say that. That's awesome. And they probably need to spend a 7th round pick on him to do it. I'm looking forward to it.
I doubt that very seriously.
Oh, come on. Let me have my dreams. There's this guy, Genty, is that his name? He'll take all the glory. It'll be fine.
There's a ton of good running backs in this draft. There's tons of them.
Okay, nothing to see here. Move on from Neal. He'll look great in red and gold. It'll be beautiful. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. I just want to say rock chalk out loud. I'm tired of hearing a win is a win. Okay, well, sorry, it is. It was the Panthers. When's the team going to get their stuff together? Do you think the Pacheco, Amenahue, Hollywood will even help? Absolutely, they will all help, and they'll get their stuff together right about the time it turns New Year's. Maybe the week after that. That's about my gut. What do you think?
So this will be probably if this is going to keep happening, this is going to be the epitome, like the volcano for me. This is going to be the eruption. I'm going to be mad about this. I'm going to get the rant. If they continue to win like this until it's like December, like the end of December and January, I'm just going to accept it after this because it's not really worth the energy I'm spending on it at times if they're going to wait to turn it on until January. But I don't think Hollywood's going to help as much, to be honest with you. He's not going to have enough time to get really ready to help you as much as you want him to. I think Amenahue and Pacheco absolutely will, specifically when the playoffs turn up.
Agreed. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you and for being a member for so long. Very much appreciate it. Gary, do you guys see just one more loss this year? Fingers crossed. If they don't pull their heads out, they're going to get bit twice. Is my feeling right now.
I agree with that. It's hard to play like this consistently, and they've been playing like this for a month. You lose multiple games, and again, you could have lost this one. They should have lost to the Broncos, and they could have lost to the Bucks. Like, let's be very honest about this. They could have been in the middle of a 4-game losing streak the way that they played.
Yeah, certainly possible. Everybody, give Gary a head. Well, he's one of our moderators around here, Derek. We appreciate everything that you do for us, and everybody pay him some respect. I appreciate you. Chiefs again. Where is Josh Uche, and what is he doing? Well, he's out there on the field running directly past the quarterback every snap and not clamping down on the corner enough. This is a pattern in his pass rush. He used to be able to counter. He had a nice little spin at the top of his rush at one point. Doesn't seem to have that in his repertoire right now. I don't know if it's an injury-related thing or whatever, but he's still coming into his own. He's just got to bash that corner more to bend it in and actually play more physical through his speed, in my opinion.
I will say he usually goes to the counter after a little bit. As a guy who was a full-time player for the most part and playing a lot more in pass rush situations on a consistent basis, he would beat the arc, get up the arc, and then work towards his speed to power and then the inside counter. The problem is, what do you want to do in the fourth quarter? You want to be able to rely on the fact that you set up this tackle to think you're going outside, and he's in there for this third down, that third down. So he's trying to basically be a one-pitch guy. That's all he's got right now. It's hard. It's tough. He got clear a couple times on the outside, but it's easy to just kind of step up in the pocket for the quarterback and kind of push him around if he doesn't offer you anything else right now. So he's not getting into a rhythm, and that's not all his fault.
Yeah, the gameplay certainly doesn't help him. Thanks, Chiefs, again. Dirty, congratulations. 3 years in the memberships. Woo! We appreciate you supporting us that long, and it has been a very long road. Kudos to all of you guys. We hit 30,000 subs. We're pushing towards 40,000. We'll get there next week or something, whatever happens. Oh, wait, no, that's not us. We grind it out around here, so thank you guys. Should we sign a cornerback, Howard or Peters? And you think either of them could help?
I'll be honest with you guys. I at this point in the season, maybe Xavier Howard can give you something, but I don't know. I'm legitimately wondering what Keith Taylor's doing on the team if he's not going to give you something. Like, you just get him out there, let him do something. See what you got.
I agree. Everyone seems to think that Jalen Watson's going to miss the rest of the season except Jalen Watson, so I'm just hoping he's going to be right. That's all I got to tell you. Sorry, Dirty, but thank you, buddy. DJ, thank you, sir. Can we expect Humphries to be better than Wanye? I honestly can't answer that. He's coming off of an ACL. He's a 330-pound lineman. I can't tell you. I'm very interested to see if he even gets out and practices in the next couple of weeks, because being cleared is one thing by a medical professional. Being able to suit up and actually take a pass is a whole damn different thing. So maybe by the playoffs is my thought.
There has been so much talk about next week. He's just going to come in and he's going to play. Guys, no. I had the original injury wrong. I thought it was this season that he got hurt, not last year. So that one was a miss on my part. But what DJ Humphries can give you, if his entire injury has evaporated, the process that his rehab has given him makes him fully back to health. Yeah, all of those possibly could happen. How many times do you think, Ryan, that offensive tackles, NFL players at 30 years old coming off of an injury are just what they were before? I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be a goose egg. It's difficult. You didn't have a whole lot of choice. Clearly, there is something out there going on with Donovan Smith that is precluding him. He did have a couple of injuries. One neurological, with the stinger and the back and the thing that lasted all season last season. So maybe there's something else, and that's why they couldn't go there. But if your answer is to then go out and get a guy who literally just got cleared by a physician yesterday and sign him, means you are scraping the bottom of what the barrel is that you think could actually help you. And it does take time. As far as I understand from my contacts, he hasn't even passed a physical yet. He got cleared by a doctor. He hasn't been in for a physical for the Chiefs yet. So we got to hold our horses a little bit. You would hope that, as Dan said, if his rehab has gone well, he should be able to step in eventually. Again, I don't think that this is a December thing. I think this is a January thing. But you said it. You said it before. I do feel I have felt all along, and you guys know how I feel about Suamata'i. I think he is the left tackle of the future. Clearly, they don't feel he can get there yet. They sat him down last week. They did have him suit this week, so maybe that's a step in the right direction. But they have to have something in case Wanye's knee goes again, right? Or God forbid, some other injury happens to Wanye. We know that he's playing through some injuries, so we got to give him a little credit for trying to do that. That's my thought.
I'm with you.
Matt, is it Maxiv? Is that what I'm supposed to say? It's just frustrating to know what a team is capable of, but Carolina come away looking as good as Denver, Baltimore, and Cincinnati. We completely agree with you. People give us a lot of crap that we're the negative Nancy's, and that's because we're going to tell you what we see as though we're in the coaching room trying to get this team to actually show what they're capable of, as you just said. So don't take us as haters or anything like that. Take us as we're trying to tell you the truth about what we see as the problem. But is Nagy a problem, Matt? Sorry, Matt. I'm going to just call you Matt the rest of the show, Dan. Sorry.
It's all over now. downhill from here.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's I know everyone wants to keep doing this, but they run the offense that Andy Reid puts together. He is every time. I'm not trying to signal you out, Rob, but we get this question every week. We get this kind of talking point every single week. It's not him. The offense was really good today. It was really good. Like, it was really good today. So it was not a problem. Like it wasn't the reason that this game was close. Can I help you? Why aren't you getting dressed?
Me and my mom were just talking about Thanksgiving.
Me and my mom were just talking about
yes,
that.
It is. It's on Thursday. Well, thank you for stopping my point, for telling me that.
Mike Wallace, thank you for the support, buddy. Can we say something positive? We are 10-1 with some cavalry coming, and let's show some love to the backup kicker. Good for you. I appreciate you. If you guys missed it, and Justin was just bringing this up too, Mike, thank you for the support. Good for you for trying to get back to the positive side. I try to do that every now and then too.
Yeah.
And Justin mentioned it. We did on Locked On, almost gave Spencer a game ball. I don't do that for specialists. I'm sorry. That's just not something that I do. Call me old school. That's fine. Call me an idiot. I don't care. That's fine. But you have a very good point. It's a difficult set of shoes to fill when it's Bucker that's usually the guy doing that job. So kudos to him. And I will say that's a positive right now. Thank you, Mike Wallace. We appreciate you.
You know, it's a situation where the Chiefs could have played for the touchdown. I still think they should have, to be very honest with you. And then you make the decision on if you get the touchdown or not. You have timeouts in your pocket. You try and make that work. But they felt confident, and they got him his confidence, much like they have not done with other players on this team. But that's neither here nor there at this point. They did a good job of making him feel comfortable in that situation and getting him close enough to where it was a shoe-in for him. So good job executing the last 2 games and doing what you've had to do when the team asks you to do it. That was a clutch situation again, regardless of how close it was. It's 27-27. You got a minute 40 to work with, and he goes down and kicks the game-winning field goal. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well out there in Cali. I hope for no more 10 o'clock games. Yeah, it's been a while since we had an early ball game like that, right? So I won't disagree with you for sure.
They've got 3 more. They've got 3 more on the schedule. So, and I've also got a quote from Patrick Mahomes saying that these games are tough for them. They have 3 more 1 o'clock Eastern schedules games. So there could be some problems.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Only Knives, is Hicks capable of playing CB2? No way in hell. He is not a cornerback. Honestly, his single man coverage against tight ends in this league, I would still say Chamari Conner's in a better position. So no, he is a space defender that's there to bring the heat. I don't think you want to match him up man to man, Dan, would you?
No, absolutely not. That's not something you ever want to put him into. That he's a box player. Like, he's been a box player. He's having to learn how to be a single high, 2 high player for this defense right now. He's a safety by nature, but he's a box safety by how he's got drafted, like why he was my safety 2 in the class last year. So no. I would be playing CRW at cornerback 2. I'd be playing Keith Taylor at number 2. I'd bring up Darius Rush and put him at cornerback 2 before I put Jaden Hicks out there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Fellas, totally agree with everything you guys are saying, but what options do we have? Our best players are hurt, and we were rolling with what we had. That's a very good point, Samuel. The problem is the players that they're rolling have more potential than they're showing. That's really where the rub comes in for me, Dan. Do you see it differently?
I don't necessarily see it differently. It's because of the situation that they put themselves in this offseason. You're seeing some of the chinks in the armor. Unfortunately, Jalen Watson got hurt in the season. He was hurt coming into the season, and they felt comfortable with Najee Johnson coming off of an injury and Josh Williams, who had never stepped up to do anything at this point in his career at the cornerback position. They drafted, and then they cut a player from Tennessee as well. So they wasted a pick on a cornerback that ended up not working out. There's nothing you can do about that. But they didn't actively try to boost the cornerback 2 spot depth in this last offseason. And now you also can't count on Mike Dana and George Karlaftis having down years as pass rushers. You can't count on that. But you might be able to do a little bit more of hamstringing some of these players like Chamari Conner and Brian Cook in certain situations if you're going to be all out blitzing. That's the problem I have.
Yeah, it continues to put pressure on places that have some chinks in their armor. Nijimura, appreciate you. What is fair to hold Nagy accountable for? It seems like he gets a free pass because he doesn't call the plays. What does he bring to the team? He brings a lot of the niftiness, a lot of the inside handoff, run game, shovel stuff. That's a lot of his ideas. A lot of the motion stuff that is the change of pace that allows you to get players like McCole Hardman and Xavier Worthy free so that they don't get roughed up at the line of scrimmage. A lot of that is Matt Nagy. Other than that, it's not a free pass because he doesn't call the plays, but in the end, he's not the most responsible guy. It has to be a tier, and it has to be a hierarchy that Andy Reid oversees, is the bottom line.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Matt Nagy would be third on my list of people in terms of the passing offense or the structure of the offense and the execution of the offense. That would be the blame. And this is a conclusion I've come to over the years of the arguments that we've had, from Doug Peterson to Matt Nagy to Eric Bieniemy back to Matt Nagy. All of that comes to say that Andy Reid is the guy that calls the plays, that designs the plays, that gets input from everyone to help design the plays in the offseason. But then when he does that, it's up to the players. And I'll be honest, Patrick Mahomes last week, execution was not there. So if you want to put some on Matt Nagy for the play calls, they had guys wide open in that game, and the execution wasn't there. And then today, the offensive line derails with penalties and poor timing situations where you got beat by guys you probably shouldn't get beat, derails drives. So I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy, but it's not his fault that Andy Reid calls this play and the players executed it this way.
It is a mismatch to be certain. Pono, we're going to wrap this up, folks. Last call for Super Chats, and we'll get going here. Why is the defense struggling? For me, it's fatigue and honestly a lack of immediacy, a lack of fire underneath them to go dominate this team this week and this team this week when you're getting their best shot every week. I think that's really what it boils down to for me.
Yeah, they're being put in some tough situations too. I've mentioned it before, but they blitz a lot on early downs against the run. It's one of the big reasons that their run defense has been so good this year. But you can take advantage of that quite easily. You get Nick Bolton triggering downhill. You get Brian Cook having to cover a wide receiver in some of these situations. You get Jamari Connor on a route run or a wide receiver when you're either run blitzing or not. And then the play action. The last 2 weeks, teams have really done a good job of holding up the offensive line, holding up on those blitzes. They're picking them up, and no one's leaking through on the run blitzes. So the play action fake works, and there's just guys wide open. And I will be the first to tell you, Carolina Panthers' offensive line has been very good this year. The money they put into it, Ike Ekwonu still is not there yet, but everywhere else, they have played better. The interior is very good. They've been able to run the ball effectively, and that's why you saw the Chiefs still triggering downhill against the run, and that's why the play action game worked. So it was a really good game plan.
When it works, it works. It's really just the bottom. Razgriz, was there something wrong with Kamal Haddon and he's still in the Packers practice squad? Yeah, he didn't get into the defense. He didn't learn it enough. And when he had to just rely on his physical capability, which I do like and I was excited about, he found that he was losing too often. And so he just wasn't up to snuff. He'll spend, I think, the rest of the season on a practice squad, and maybe he'll get another shot at camp with someone.
I mean, he was playing slot roles in preseason. Let's not forget, they wouldn't even put him on the outside.
Yeah. That's when you're hunting to put somebody in a place they don't generally belong. You're really making an effort to get him in there. Pono, who's the odd man out in the wide receiver room when Hollywood and Rashid come back next year? I would think Brett will re-sign Hollywood to another one-year contract. I do think so on that part, but I believe they only have 3 receivers under contract right now, so I don't think it's going to become an issue, right?
No, you're right about that. That's why they brought in Tyquan Thornton to put him on the practice squad so we can compete for a spot on the roster next year. I mean, maybe D-Hop comes back. I mean, if you can play at this level for this offense, you might see DeAndre Hopkins and say, it's been awesome, Hollywood. We love to have you here, but we've got a guy that can do what you did in Xavier Worthy, and be honest, he's not the injury problem that you have been. to this point, and you might see something like that happen. So I would love to see Hollywood back in the offense because I was excited to see what it would look like. But I think they're going to have to make a decision. It might end up being him or DeAndre Hopkins. And at that point, I think what we've seen from D-Hop in this offense gives you something trustworthy more so than Hollywood Brown. But we haven't got to see that, so I don't know.
Yeah. Let's hope that he gets back and gives us something to compare, and then we'll have a better idea. Thank you, Pono. Thank you, Quentin. This team doesn't spark confidence. I feel like a one and done year coming for the first time in Mahomes' era. How do you guys feel? I do not see that at all. I think if they run into the Bills, it'll be in the championship game. And other than that, they make it to the Super Bowl. I think that's it. But I think the Ravens can knock the Bills off. Let's be real. We've seen that happen in years past. So I think it's AFC championship at a minimum right now.
I'm gonna take this opportunity to spin, the negativity, because it's been a lot of negativity. This team is still a Super Bowl roster. Let's not forget that they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. And I know that the feel is different because they're winning a lot of the games this year that they lost last year by playing the same football. That's how this kind of works, right? You play the same kind of way at times and you win it or you lose it. And this year they're winning those football games. But at the end of the day, they're still going to have to come to December and January where they actually start to care about getting things right, which I'm willing to admit they do not care. I know that it's been hinted at. It's pretty much a fact at this point. They're not going to turn it on until January. So let's just take it for what it is. We can talk about the in-game stuff. That's kind of what Ryan and I like to do for this. It's the in-game frustrations. But the overarching complex of this team is a Super Bowl winning because, yes, who wants to win this way? Who wants to win this way? I know that I think that the teams even find it frustrating at times. But you want to know when this stuff does pay off? When you're in a fourth quarter game and it's tied in the playoffs. They have all of these games the last 2 seasons to just say, yeah, we've been here before. And they won't panic. They just won't. Other teams do. That's the difference between this team and any other team in the postseason. This team does not panic in gotta have it situations. Sometimes you see them lose those. That happens. It's just the roll of dice sometimes. But more often than not, we have 2 solid years of evidence that says in those moments, this team doesn't lose those football games. So that it sucks to watch happen in the regular season. It's not going to suck when it's the postseason.
I say this every year, and I can only illustrate it with my hand. You have college play. You have guys that hit that bump when they come into training camp. You have guys that hit the next bump when they come into the regular season. You have guys that get the next bump when the playoffs come. And then you have the next bump. That's the biggest one. You get to championship games, either conference or Super Bowl. This team feels the least amount of bump in those last 2 levels because they've been here and done that. And that's what all this goes into. So I don't fear anything, to tell you the truth. We're going to wrap up with Wolfgang. Thank you, sir. If you guys would hit that that would help us. It helps more Chiefs fans find us, as you always know. Thank you for pointing that out, Wolfgang. And you had another great comment that I want to end on. Were these in the same place that Rice was a season ago at this time? And there's a lot of upside yet to come. I actually agree with that wholeheartedly, and thank you for pointing it out, Wolfgang. Dan, any closing thoughts? Do you agree, disagree, or think something else?
Oh, definitely agree. And to Shub's question here, no, I don't think so. I think if the communication between Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy were on par, we're talking about a guy who has probably close to 600 yards and 7 touchdowns, and no one is questioning the pick. No one is questioning whether he's overrated. No one's really questioning any of that. So, yeah, you don't want to see some of the mistakes that he's made, but he's a rookie. He's going to figure that out. And I think he's actually going to be very dangerous next year when it's him and Rashee Rice on the field at the same time, and they both have that year under their belt. We saw what Rashee Rice was doing this year, guys. We saw that. That was no mistake. That's going to have to be implemented next year with 2 guys who are still young, and now they're getting the offense figured out. So I'm excited to see what that looks like.
I like that, and I like this by another one of our moderators, FLDB. They're the Golden Gate Warriors of the NFL. I can live with that. I can live with that pretty steadily, to tell you the truth. So cheers, buddy. And thank you, Thundarius. Nice to see you, and congrats. Cancer-free again. Hope you're doing well, bud. RGR's them boys. You're going to see Thundarius over on the other channel on RGR Craft I'm renaming it. I might as well just tell you guys now because I give you a
Just
little
tell
hint. If you missed my piece from the other day, there's a little flash in there. We're going to be called Craft and Cork Foodie. Beer, wine, whiskey, and food from Dan and me, all kinds of stuff. Just get used to it. It's going to be a smorgasbord. Dan will get there when he gets there, but I have some content pretty much ready for you. So check that out. I'm looking forward to it. Dan, thanks for being with us and taking time out from the fan.
Absolutely, guys. Just be frustrated in the moment. Reflect on what is. It's 10. They're 10-1, and they are the number 1 seed. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the 1 seed, and right now they are the 1 seed. So it is right.
Absolutely. It's going to be a blast. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of football. We'll talk to you tomorrow night live at 7 for our normal Q&A, and we'll talk to you then.